Hello there and welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and the latest 31 on 31. This is where a group of us take some franchises, put them all into the bundle, so to speak. They have to make 31 movies and we rank them all. Now we're getting to probably the big one, really. It's DC versus Marvel. So the DCEU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So not counting things like The Dark Knight or Joker, which stood on its own, but the things that actually stand within continuity within those two cinematic universes. We currently stand, with all the films that have been released in those two worlds, we currently stand at 31 movies. So yeah, we thought, let's do it. As usual, there is CP and Cody Leach who are doing this. Over on their channels, Cody Leach, it's obviously just Cody Leach, and CP is WILIscredia. But this time around, we've also got Chandler, who joined us for the action 31 and 31. But also this time, we've got Christopher Durbin from Durbania. So, you know what, if you haven't seen their videos already before watching this one, do check them out after you've seen this one. We are releasing them all today, which is the 31st, hence the reason it's called 31 on 31 or 31 on the 31st. What I will say up front is that I do like every single film on this list, which is the first time that has happened. Quite frankly, it's the first time we've done one of these 31 on 31s where I've liked every film on the list, you know, to varying degrees. Certainly, I think my number 31 choice has got issues, and I objectively can't necessarily say it's a good film, but I do like it. I do enjoy it. I think that just goes to show that comic book superhero movies are my bag. But let's get into it. Starting with number 31, which is Suicide Squad. Yep, sorry DC, you do take the bottom slot. I am a DC guy, it must be said. I do need to say that up front. If it comes to the comic books, I'm DC all the way. But the movies, well, we're going to see across this video, aren't we? There might be a different kettle of fish. But Suicide Squad, it's sloppy. The editing is pretty atrocious. You know, it was famously taken over by a bunch of trailer editors who chopped the movie to within an inch of its life, turned it into essentially a music video. But beyond that, as well, characters are not really well developed. I don't know if David Ayer's to blame for that, or whether it is the editing that has really done a hack job on it. The main villain is not great. It's probably the weakest of the DCEU villains, and Cara Delevingne is not great in the role at all. It is definitely the weakest of the bunch, but I can have fun with it. There's some decent action in it. I do like some of the characters. There are some genuine laughs, and I would definitely be up for seeing that Ayer cut. At number 30 is Thor: The Dark World. Now, before doing this video, I did actually watch most of these films again. There's a few on here that I didn't need to watch that really solidified in my mind. But yeah, Thor: The Dark World was one of them. And I'd always defended Thor: The Dark World. It seems to be the one that gets a lot of flack in the MCU. A lot of people put it on the bottom. Clearly, I've just put it on the bottom. Until doing this video, I never would have. I've enjoyed it in the past. But watching it this time around, for whatever reason, I was just bored. And there's far too many contrivances and conveniences. Like, you know, when they send stuff through that wormhole thing and it kind of gets dumped on the planet, and then later when they go to that planet, they just happen to go in the cave where all that stuff has been dumped, and it's just like, seriously, a whole planet? It feels like a bit of a mess. It's quite dull, but there are some decent action scenes, and it's always fun to watch Loki. Number 29 is Iron Man 2. This is a film that it's disappointing because they do so much good work in like the first, say, 40 minutes. Whiplash is an excellent villain, must be said, but I feel like after that first fight on the racetrack, I feel like his job was done. You know, he he set out to make God bleed, so to speak. That's that's the analogy he uses. If you can make God bleed, people will lose faith, and the sharks will begin to circle in the water. And I feel like that was it. That was his job done, to bring him back in the really hokey way that they do with Sam Rockwell's character, who, the more I watch this film, actually kind of starts to irritate me a bit more. I can't buy that somebody would get to the position he's risen to, given just how crap his tech is. The last half of the film, or the last hour and 20 minutes, it's a bit of a mess. Number 28 is Aquaman. I really like this film. I do. I have a lot of fun with it. I think the action sequences are incredible. James Wan has really come on as a director. He's proven that he's not just the an independent horror thriller type guy, but he can do big action set pieces. He does interesting things with the camera. He does long takes, which look really complicated to pull off, but kind of bring you right into the action. So yeah, all the action in this, I love it. The world building, it's absolutely beautiful. Really, really great visuals. But I feel like where it stumbles is the chemistry between the two leads, the two heroes. Not because of Momoa, because I think he's great as Aquaman, but I think Amber Heard, for whatever reason, just doesn't have any chemistry with Momoa. I do think a lot of the stuff with her character feels really cringy, like the bit where she's eating the rose petals because she's come on land for the first time, although it's technically not the first time, but it's the first time she's like been really on land for a prolonged stay, so to speak, and she's like a fish out of water. She suddenly turns into a bit of a dumb child and starts eating rose petals because she doesn't quite know what you do on land. And it's just like, you still have plant life under the sea. I think a lot of the dialogue is a bit cringy at times, a bit heavy laden. And there are some special effects that don't quite feel finished. But for the most part, it's really good stuff. I love the setup of Black Manta. I think the villains are really great in this. And like I say, it's just a really colourful, beautiful world to go into. At number 27 is Justice League. Yes. Okay. It's the elephant in the room for anyone who knows me, who knows my past reviews. I gave it 5 stars on its initial release. Look, this is a film I've been waiting for so long. I'm a big DC guy, as I say. I wanted these characters on screen together for so long. And I do still really like this film. I enjoy it. It's a good, rollicking roller coaster ride. But that's kind of all it is. Bring me the Snyder Cut. Again, Snyder got screwed over, and I think there's a lot of bad blood there as a result of that, which kind of definitely turns me off the film in many ways. There are certain bits in it, there's a lot of bits in it, where you can see that it's Joss Whedon's voice and not Zack Snyder's voice, and their two styles just clash. They don't fit in well together at all. One or the other, not both. So yeah, it is a bit of a mess of a film, but it is still coherent. It does still manage to tell a coherent story. Not the 5-star film that I rated it on release. When it was first released, I saw it, and I had such a blast with it. I went in again straight away, and I still had a blast with it. So I just had to review it on that subjective experience. And yeah, in a home environment, on the small screen, watching it again and again, it just, the cracks they stick out like a sore thumb the more I watch it. But I do still like it. At number 26 is Captain Marvel. I think this is a solid film. I think it gets kind of unfairly maligned. A lot of people came out, got the knives out for Brie Larson. I think she does an okay job. I definitely think there could have been more done with it from a performance standpoint. I think she's certainly one of the weaker embodiments of an MCU character as far as performance goes. There's clearly a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with her and relationships. You can tell that, yeah, for whatever reason, people haven't warmed to her. Her arc isn't particularly strong. I don't think there could have been a lot more there to really develop her arc. Beyond that, everything that's going on around her and the special effects, the action sequences, the other characters, the development of the villains into the heroes and the heroes into the villains, and I think it's pretty solid. Number 25 is Thor, the first Thor film, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Branagh had a really difficult job. This was the MCU just kind of getting out of the gate. So, yes, we'd had Iron Man. It was a great success. Iron Man 2 stumbled a bit. And then you've got Thor coming along. And it's like, you're on a completely different world now. You're not on Earth anymore. Well, you are for much of the film, but, for the other half of the film, you're on a different world. You're on lots of different worlds. And it's like, dealing with Norse god mythology. So how do you integrate that into this world we saw in Iron Man, which feels a lot more grounded, a lot more real? Branagh does a really good job because he treats it like Shakespeare. The arc that Thor goes on kind of be written on the back of a postage stamp because you know exactly what's going to happen, the beats. It's pretty predictable in that sense. But where the film shines is in Thor's relationships with the world around him. Again, that fish out of water story, coming to our planet, never really being there before, kind of out of his element. His powers are taken away. What does he do? How does he handle it? All that stuff is really fun. Number 24 is Spider-Man Far From Home. Both of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films haven't worked as well for me on the big screen as they have on the small screen. This one, number 24, Spider-Man Far From Home. I still think it's not faultless. Again, a lot of the humour doesn't work for me. I'm not overly keen on some of Parker's friends, Peter Parker's friends, but they do. I do warm to them. Again, a lot more on the small screen than I did on the big screen. I think Mysterio is a great villain, and that's mostly down to Jake Gyllenhaal's performance. I think he's really great in the role. I just think that the concept behind him, it does... I know we've seen a lot of stuff in the MCU that stretches kind of credibility, that whole suspension of disbelief thing, but I do have a little bit more trouble suspending that disbelief with everything that they're doing. And number 23 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Like I say, everything I just said for Spider-Man Far From Home, you can kind of apply to this film, except I do think that Vulture makes for a stronger villain. Not necessarily because of the performance, but just because I think he's better written. I think the tie to the twist at the end, just with like who he's tied to and how he becomes connected to Peter Parker, I think was really great. Outside of Batman, Spider-Man is probably the comic book hero who has the best rogues gallery, and you can see from these two films why that is. It's got a couple of really strong villains here. It's just, for me, Homecoming just slightly edges out over Far From Home. And number 22 is The Incredible Hulk. Now, this is a Universal film, really. It's kind of the odd one out when it comes to the MCU, because like Universal still held the rights to Hulk as a character. So but it still fits in perfectly well. It's still an MCU film. I do think it's a good, solid action movie that harkens back to the 70s TV show, that man on the run trying to find a cure, trying to work out this problem whilst being pursued by the military. It's a very simple kind of plot. He wants to get back to his love. It's a bit of a shame that kind of Liv Tyler's character has been dropped since. I think it's a really cracking action movie with a good villain in Tim Roth as the Abomination. Number 21 is Black Panther. This is a film that was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It's a good film. It is. It's a very good film. I just like I said, I put it above all of these films I've just mentioned. It's just like when you slap that boom Best Picture Oscar nominee on, you start to kind of, it just feels like an average comic book movie to me. Like, very good. The average comic book movie just happens to be very good, but it's just like, yeah, okay. A lot of people seem to rave about Killmonger as this awesome villain. I've seen write-ups about the greatest comic book movie villains ever, and Killmonger seems to just appear on these lists now, and it's like, I don't think he's that great a villain. I really don't. They do all this stuff with him once he gets to Wakanda about how he's trying to free the black people around the world who are being subjugated by the white guys, and like, where's this coming from? Because we don't see anything. We don't see this tortured history that he talks about, which has led him to that worldview. That all we see of him in his younger days are when he's out playing basketball with his friends, looking quite happy, and then after that we see him finding out that his father has been killed. And was it the white people who killed him? No, it was his father's own people. Just 10 minutes at the beginning of the film in which we see this boy's life, in which he's, maybe sent to a school that isn't quite as good as the school in the white neighborhood, or, his dad's struggling on benefits or trying to get health care but can't because the white doctors won't see him unless he's got the money, or the white folks in the employment centre won't give him a job. You know what I mean? Scenes like that kind of really show you how this guy develops that opinion, but we don't. I don't buy this agenda that he has, and I should, because it would be one of the strengths of the film if they'd have actually given us a reason to believe that he would have it. Despite all that, it's an amazing world, that they create. It's really beautiful to look at. The colours, the culture, the characters, the wealth of characters. I love the lore that goes into it. The history. You feel like there's a real deep sense of history here with the different tribes and their roles within the society, and the way that they kind of decide upon who's going to be king and this, that, and the other. It is great. In that sense, there's a lot of stuff in here that's really fantastic. Number 20 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is the film that I've been up and down on more than any on this list. When I first saw it at cinema, loved it. Absolutely, had such a blast with it. And then I watched it on DVD or Blu-ray at home, and I did not get the same effect from it at all. I watched it again recently because I was putting this list together. I wanted to be finite on my opinion, so to speak, and I loved it again. I think mood plays an awful big part sometimes in the watching of movies, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy maybe is just one of those movies that, Volume 2 anyway, it's one of them movies where you just need to be in the right mood. This time around, I was in the right mood, and I had a blast with it. I love the stuff between Gamora and Nebula, their rivalry, and how they become sisters at the end. Drax is always great for me. I think Batista in that role has just really nailed something that I'm always entertained by. He's just really humorous. And Rocket as well, Rocket Raccoon, Bradley Cooper in that, I find fantastic. Number 19 is Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man film. Paul Rudd, really good in the role. I like his group of friends. There's a few touches in there where you can see the remnants of Edgar Wright's style, the quick when he's telling the stories and that. It's clearly got to be an Edgar Wright thing that I think they've kept from when Wright was working on the film. The villain, I just don't find that interesting, to be honest, in the movie, which is a shame. But I do enjoy all the dynamics between the characters. I enjoy that Rudd's character is trying to, get closer to his daughter. It's a family drama. It's a lot more downplayed. It's not big and epic like a lot of the other Marvel movies, which, when you're dealing with a character called Ant-Man, kind of makes sense thematically. At number 18 is Thor Ragnarok. Really like this film. It's very enjoyable. I do think it's a little bit overrated though. If you look at the like say you go on Letterboxd and you look at the highest rated Marvel movies, this sits somewhere near the top. So according to Letterboxd users, Thor Ragnarok is literally, you know, it's up there. It's top tier Marvel stuff. For me, I am highly entertained by it. I do love Thor anyway as a character. He's not always been in the strongest films, but him as a character I find to be really funny. A lot of that is down to Chris Hemsworth's performance, it must be said. He brings a lot to that role. I think my problem with this film is that it goes too much for the funny. That being said, I love the worlds that they go to. Lots of really interesting, funny, quirky characters. And it is just, yeah, it's an entertaining roller coaster ride of a movie that may be just a little bit too long. At number 17 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, there's not much to separate the two Ant-Man films. I think the reason that this one, for me, just edges the first one out is, again, it's the villain. I find the villain in this one much stronger. You know, the Ghost, I feel like she's someone that ultimately you can empathise with, sympathise with, understand. She's not just a megalomaniac who's trying to take over the world. She's got an agenda that has validity to it. Lawrence Fishburne is really great in it. Lawrence Fishburne tends to be pretty great in everything, to be honest. I like the interplay between him and Michael Douglas, just the competition that's going on between them. And I feel like, you know, by the second film, that everyone's comfortable in their roles, they know what they're doing, and they just ease back into it pretty nicely. At number 16 is, for me, what is probably the most underrated of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, which is Captain America: The First Avenger. Yeah, I really like Captain America as a character anyway. I'm not necessarily talking about the comic books there. I can't say I've ever really read much in the way of Captain America stuff, but from the movies, what Chris Evans brings to the role, and just who the character is as well. He is my favourite Avenger. You know, I do like his old-fashioned values. The first hour of Captain America: First Avenger is just, it does such a great job of making me warm to this guy. You know, they do a lot of character building with him before he becomes Captain America. We see why he wants this so much, and we see why he's the right man for the job. The film does lose a little bit in the second half when it becomes, you know, like a typical kind of action fest, superhero going up against supervillain. But I do love that supervillain. The Red Skull, Hugo Weaving, cracking job, one of my favourite MCU villains, and I do like the two of them going head to head. Number 15 is Shazam, and yeah, I just think this movie's a blast. It really does a good job of showing you what would happen if all the superpowers that we see in these movies we've been watching got put into the hands of a child. You know, at first they handle it with great irresponsibility, and you know, just do things for fun, do things for kicks, have a blast with it, and that's infectious. You know, you can really enjoy that stuff. But ultimately it becomes a film about family and you know, family being the people you choose to have in your life rather than the people that you're related to, regardless of whether you want to be. Number 14 is Doctor Strange. This has more than a little bit of an Inception vibe about it. I really liked it, and I caught something this time around that I'd missed on previous viewings, which was the warping of the cityscapes and stuff only being done within that strange kind of other world that they're able to go into. I can't remember the name of it, which explained a few inconsistencies for me. I think it's really good. I like Benedict Cumberbatch in the role as that character, this arrogant doctor who, you know, has to learn to let go of that arrogance, to let go of the ego, and make it about others and not about himself. I love the visuals, some really trippy visuals. Chiwetel Ejiofor is one of my favourite actors. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him in the future. He's obviously going to become a villain. I like the way he plays that conflict towards the end of the movie, when he realises that actually the person he's put his faith in for so long has lied to him. Number 13 for me is Birds of Prey, or the fantabulous emancipation of one hat. Who cares? Birds of Prey. Yeah, I had a blast with this, big time. This is a film that is just about fun. R-rated fun, admittedly. It's definitely a lot more violent than your average superhero movie. It's mostly about anti-heroes, criminals. I really love this group of women that get together. I love each one of these characters. I think they do a really good job. I can't remember the name of the director, but she does an excellent job of handling these. I think, you know, having that full-on female perspective and bringing that to the comic book movie genre is really great. I think where the movie fails, and it is a bit of a sore point for me, is that there isn't a single male character in the whole movie, not a single one, that has redeeming qualities. Number 12 is Iron Man, the first Iron Man film. Yeah, start of the MCU, right out of the gate. Jon Favreau just does an amazing job. It could have been rubbish, and then that would have been it. Marvel would have been, okay, we tried it, we failed, where do we go from here? But no, they came out with a real kick-ass film, great performance from Robert Downey Jr., who pretty much embodied the character of Tony Stark, great relationship between him and Pepper Potts, the chemistry between him and Gwyneth Paltrow is absolutely electric. It's just, yeah, it's really great stuff. Oh! You may have noticed my clothes have changed. Yes, I filmed my video, I edited my video, and I realised in the process of editing it weeks after that, hey, I'd missed one of my films out. Yes, I missed number 11 out. So here it is, number 11. Yes, you just got to own that stuff, haven't you? When you cock up, you just got to own it. But number 11 is Iron Man 3. I do like this one slightly more than the first one. Obviously, that's why I put it at number 11 and the first one at number 12, which I'm sure is sacrilege to a lot of people. But hey-ho, I'm a big Shane Black fan. I love what he brings to this film. I love that he circumvents expectations. He sets us up for, you know, the Mandarin being this real badass terrorist guy. And I was along for that ride. I really was. So when the rug was pulled from under us, I was just as shocked as everyone at first, but then after a while I just thought, you know what, that's a stroke of genius, because it's something the audience doesn't expect, and it's so few times these days that we get the unexpected in these kind of movies. So I love the fact that Marvel took a risk with this one. I love the fact that they let a director known for a particular style and a particular sort of dialogue just run with it and apply that to an Iron Man film. I love the interplay between Tony and the kid. It's just really good stuff. It's funny. If you're a Shane Black fan, this is a perfect film for you. So now we get to our top 10. So these are the absolute best of the best when it comes to these movies for me. Number 10 is Avengers, or Avengers Assemble if you're in the UK. Yes. It's incredible. You know, it was the first time something like this had really been done. So it a lot of balls to juggle, a lot of pieces to kind of keep in the air, and Joss Whedon manages it. You know, he takes what he learned from running TV shows for all those years and he applies it to the film, and yeah, he was a good choice. All the characters get their moment to shine, with maybe the exception of Hawkeye, who kind of gets sidelined for much of the movie. But no, great action set pieces, really good character moments. Like I say, whoever your favourite Avenger is, there will be a moment in this film where you can Loki makes for a really great villain. Yeah, cracking stuff. And number 9 is Avengers Age of Ultron. I think this one doesn't get quite as much love as it deserves, to be honest. I don't understand a lot of the criticisms of this, actually. I think it's a really good film, and I do prefer it over the first one. I think it's got a better villain for a start. I'm not saying Loki's a bad villain. There's something about Ultron that I just love, that kind of childish naivety that his brain kind of works with, even though he's super intelligent because he's bringing all this information in at once, but he can't quite handle it because he's got this very young brain. I love what James Spader brings vocally to that role. I love the way he's written. I love the threat that he kind of offers to the Avengers. I like the addition of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I think as well, because the characters are all together right from the start, we don't have that whole setup of meeting them for the first time. We just get straight into the banter. We just get straight into the adventure. In the words of Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. Yes, I got into the edit and realised not only had I skipped over number 11, I had also skipped over number 8. Seriously don't know what's wrong with me, but hey ho, there you go. At number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, James Gunn brings us into the world of the Guardians. It is much different to anything we've seen previously in the MCU, but it is just an absolute joy to watch. It's so much fun from start to finish. Love the characters. As I said, yeah, basically everything I said about Volume 2, you can apply to this one, only it's put in a much tighter, reined-in kind of story, in which, yeah, it's not too big, it's not too kind of over the top. It's got some really nice kind of character moments, quieter moments. So yeah, because of that, I think it works a lot better than the second one. As much as I love the second one, first Guardians film, absolutely top notch. Number 7 is Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins does an excellent job. Again, like I say, having a female-led superhero movie directed by a woman, kind of bringing that female perspective into it so that female character becomes a truly female character, and not, you know, a fantasy of some kind of male like thinking. I think it really does add something. I think Wonder Woman is an excellent character, a really hopeful character. I love her outlook on the world. You know, the whole notion that love is the answer. Essentially, you know, it's a bit cheesy, whatever, but I think it's a necessary message. I think the action sequences are incredible. I think the score, again, you know, DC really, if there's certainly one thing they do better than the MCU, it is their scores. I think they definitely have better, more memorable scores. I think the world they've created on Themyscira, I think that the relationship between Chris Pine's character and Wonder Woman and the team that they create to go over to No Man's Land, that No Man's Land sequence, absolutely brilliant scene. That was really kind of rousing scene in the cinema. It's just something that kind of, it's like, yeah, come on, Wonder Woman. It's just, yeah, I love it. At number 6, it's the controversial one. It's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, but not the theatrical cut. Okay, as far as I'm concerned now, there is only one cut of this film, and it is the ultimate cut. I'm sure some people will grumble, some people will comment and say, you can't, that wasn't released in theatres, so you can't really choose that one, it's not in continuity. I don't care. The only one I watch is the ultimate cut. It's the cut that should have been released in theatres. It was Zack Snyder's original vision before he got screwed. Not for the last time. So yeah, the ultimate cut for me is a really incredible piece of work. I absolutely love it. I think it does a much better job of fleshing out Clark Kent's character and giving him real motivation for why he would want to fight Batman. There's a lot of other stuff in there as well, like when they set Superman up at the beginning, it's much more fleshed out, so you actually understand what is going on. I think it's a highly underrated movie. I absolutely love it. The ultimate cut I can watch again and again. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to check it out. Number 5 is Captain America: Civil War. Yeah, just a really great movie. You know, again, they do a really good job with this of showing you these opposing sides and why they would develop. And I think also what they do, and what I would argue perhaps they do better than Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Cut at any rate, is they show you how both sides are right. So you can understand anyone being on Iron Man's side, you can understand anyone being on Captain America's side, and it really does come down to which side of the fence you sit on. If you look at Batman v Superman, clearly Batman is a bit psychotic. Clearly he's gone off the rails. He's been in the darkness for too long, and he's essentially the villain of the film. You know, Batman is the villain of Batman v Superman until he's not. You know, whereas Civil War, it's not really about hero villain. It's about two opposing sides, both of which have validity, going against each other, and what's going to win out. Number 4 is Avengers Infinity War. Yes, just staggering stuff. The Russo brothers, absolutely, you know, picking the mantle up from Joss Whedon, which they did first with their two Captain America movies, and then clearly they were the right choice for the final Avengers movies. And here, yeah, they take a tyrant, an absolute tyrant, the biggest bad of them all, Thanos, and they make him relatable. They make him understandable. They turn his ridiculous plan to wipe out half the universe into something that actually kind of makes sense from a rational perspective. If Spock was looking at his plan, I could very much imagine him saying, "That's logical, Captain," because it is. It's kind of logical. But yeah, still wrong. Number 3 is Avengers Endgame. So basically the second part of Infinity War. I think because we get some finality with it, because we do get an end to the story, it does kind of push it up slightly. And I think also because we get an end to several characters' journeys. You could watch Endgame and you could say, right, I'm done now. I'm done with the MCU. I'm not watching any more movies that they do. And you get a complete story with those, 22 movies, I think it was. It ends. You know, they've most MCU movies, they have a sting in the tail. They have an after credit scene or several after credit scene which points you to the next movie. Or there'll be something in the movie that isn't fully dealt with because you know it's going to be dealt with in another movie. What Endgame does is says, this is the end. This is everything we've been leading to across these 21 movies. This is it. This is the big climax. We're gonna kill off certain characters. We're gonna bring certain story arcs to a close, and that's what they do. Certainly, there's a case there to say that Endgame is the best MCU movie, but it's not my favourite because actually that spot goes to Captain America, the Winter Soldier. As I said, Cap is my favourite Avenger. I think because Captain America Winter Soldier deals specifically with him, it's his story. You know, you go to the Avengers movies, you got all those other characters to play with, which I love, and I love going on that journey with them. But when you focus in on just Cap, give him the story, it's going to get me every time. I think that's one of the reasons Civil War, doesn't come a bit higher, because it doesn't really just feel like a Cap movie. It just feels like another Avengers movie. Whereas here, this is Cap's story. It's a very personal story for him. Once you get Bucky Barnes involved, the Winter Soldier, I think, the fight between them at the end is really great because Cap has to choose to lose. It isn't about him beating down Bucky in a fight, which he could do. He has to choose to lose. He has to choose to take those hits, to make that sacrifice so that his friend will come back from the brink. I like the political kind of edge to it. It feels very much like a 70s political thriller. It feels like it's got a bit more weight behind it. It feels like the story is about more how much power you give to a government, how much control you give to a government. It's just, it deals with some pretty weighty stuff. And I just think Captain America is the perfect character to deal with that stuff through. My number one, for anyone who's been paying attention, you should know what it is because it's not appeared on the list yet. It is, of course, Man of Steel. Now, I did review Man of Steel fairly recently, so do check out that review for my full thoughts on it. It is, for my money, the single most underrated comic book superhero movie of all time. I think it's highly misunderstood. I don't get pretty much most of the criticisms for it, quite frankly. I'm not going to bang on about this film. Like I say, check out my review. It should be a few videos back on my channel, but I love it. Henry Cavill as Superman, love it. I love the villains. I love the action set pieces, despite the fact that some people think it just goes on too much. I think it's some great character development. I love the fresh take on Superman. I think they do give him a bit of a darker edge, but without losing him, you know, the symbol of hope aspect of him. I think they bring him into the modern world in an appropriate way. And I think Zack Snyder does an incredible job. And it has the greatest movie score of all time. I'm sure many people will disagree, but hey, that's the beauty of these videos. Feel free to share your lists down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of mine. Again, I do have to reiterate, as I've done in the previous videos of these we've done, these are just my subjective thoughts, my opinion. No reason it should offend you, so keep things civil. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your lists, your rankings. Do check out the other videos by Cody Leach, CP of WILIscredia, Christopher Durbin from Durbania, and of course, Sean Chandler. Thanks for watching. Until next time, cracking.